Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the April Mobility and Access Coalition meeting. We had a couple of items shift around today, so I apologize for getting the agenda out so late. Just a couple of housekeeping features. So we are in Zoom, and the invite that you got should have the ability to do a one-tap call-in if you lose internet connection for any reason. And I'm hoping that my internet will stay strong throughout this, but if not, Jessica will take over because my internet's been a little bit wonky today. But you can go ahead and just click on the one tap phone number, and it will have the code and everything in the when it's dialing it, so you don't have to actually remember the code. Just a couple of housekeeping features. We ask that everybody's muted while they're not speaking. And if you are speaking, try to use your camera if you're in a position where you can. This just helps with communication in a virtual format. It's a little bit hard to always pick up on those nonverbal cues. You can see who else is in the meeting by clicking on the participants. And then you can also click on the chat. At this point, if everybody could type their name and their organization in the chat, that'll help us with our meeting minutes and being able to tell who was here. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just so you all know, we meet the second Monday of the month. We have a variety of networking opportunities, capacity building exercises. We focus on planning processes and how to make those more inclusive. And then we have project updates. Basically, we believe that transportation is essential to achieving equity. Transportation access means that people have access to meet all of their basic needs. They have improved quality of life, and they have access to opportunity. So we really do try to focus on having people be safe and thriving with their transportation options. And we believe that if people have backup options, then they're a little bit more resilient and they're able to weather whatever changes come their way. Our agenda today, we're gonna do breakout sessions for some case studies. We're gonna get an update on the ambassador, the Mobility for All ambassador program. We're gonna have a discussion about membership and what we're gonna look like next year. We have a presentation by the Division of Vocational Rehab, and they're gonna be talking about the business supports that they can provide to help people hiring people with disabilities and help with that transition. If your organization does choose to hire people with disabilities through DVR, they do some like job placement and coaching benefits, I guess. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we'll have organizational updates. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay. We're going to go ahead. Let me see how many people we have here. Let me go ahead and stop. Actually,
we have 20.
Our group. So similarly, we didn't find there to be a super viable transit option, unfortunately, using fixed route. So we came up with similar options. So the volunteer driver programs via or Cultivate. We mentioned friends and family also potentially offering to drive or catching a ride. We talked about the Access on Demand program with RTD that's doing the collaboration with Uber, if that would be an option. And then we were wondering if perhaps the treatment center also provides transportation support and what that would look like. So again, like not super set responses, just brainstorming.
Yeah, that's good. Great. And we did not say anything about age or disability status or like technology ability in this. So that's something that we could probably beef this one up a little bit more to give a little more detail. Those are great. Next group, we have Lindsay, Megan, Sarah, and Tim. Do y'all want to talk about what you all talked about?
So I'm going to lay out that none of us had the link when we got into our group. So we made some stuff up based on the information I had quickly Googled before we got put into our group. So we did talk about some options, but once again, we didn't know what somebody would qualify for. We did look up bus routes. And I did see something for RTD, but then it looked like there was like a mile walk when they got to Lafayette to even get to the location. So at 6 in the morning, I wasn't sure how reliable or how safe or anything like that would be. And then we talked about non-medical Medicaid if that person qualified, but we talked about how those are limited that they can utilize those for. So 5-day-a-week job, that might not be a long-term solution for transportation. We talked about Z-Trip as like a ride transportation provider that could be paying out of pocket. And then we talked about access on demand, which is partnered with RTD as well for that access on demand. So it's a $25 voucher on a $40 ride. So it's less money, but it's still not free for that passenger. And then we started kind of trying to figure out, and that's where Sarah got cut off, where we were talking about Access-a-Ride, because I was looking to find out if they qualified for Access-a-Ride or something along those lines. I wasn't sure how they did it, like between cities, or if that was a possibility, or the hours of operation. And I think that's the majority of what we went over with no link.
Yeah, sorry about that. I sent it after you all were sent to the breakout rooms, so I wasn't sure
You're
if you got.
It was also my fault because I thought I had it because Jessica sent it to me and then she sent me to the breakout room and then I like didn't have it anymore because it disappeared after I don't know why, but
I'm sorry, Sarah.
no, you're good. That was totally me. And then I was gonna message you and then I couldn't find you in my Teams.
Oh, no.
I don't know. It's okay. I'm really slow. I also have a vision impairment, so that makes things a little more fun. But I do know about Access-a-Ride because of that, so that's helpful. And I know that they don't run 2 to 4 a.m. and other than that, they run.
Yeah,
Good to know.
great. Well, thank you, Sarah. The next group we have Bobby, Elaine, and Rebecca. What ideas did you all come up with, or what problems came up for you all?
Yeah, I think we kind of identified a lot of the same as other people. So one of the suggestions I had, it's not necessarily going to help on the first day, but there's a possibility as the person gets settled in the job, maybe somebody, a colleague on that shift works in Longmont and would be able to help with the ride support. Additionally, if she can just get to Lafayette, maybe there's somebody from the workplace that could at least pick her up from the bus to get her into work. Because it seems like there's a little bit more latitude in the afternoon to get home. It's but very tight on that very first bus for sure. We did look, of course, at the car share with Bobby, but realizing that could be kind of expensive. And we also weren't sure if the person actually had a driver's license.
Yeah.
And another thing is she could also have a family member like do the car share, pick her up and then take her to work and bring it back. And that would be, pretty much like an hour round trip or 2-hour round trip, depending on, because car share is available 24 hours a day. So
yeah. And about how much do you think that would cost? I know that there's other factors like what
it's
membership?
about $4.15 an hour, and then like 35 cents a mile, depending on the plan.
Yeah, so it would probably definitely be under $10.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to know. So the last group is Lauren, Ronnie, and Sydney. Do you all want to share what you came up with? Let's see.
I'll speak. I couldn't get my thing unmuted. We kind of came up with the same challenges as everybody else. We were really focused on the buses, and I knew that the bus left early, but yeah, we also discovered that it arrived in Lafayette at 6:03 and it would be approximately a 24-minute walk if she were to walk. And even if she were to be able to ride a bike, it's still she would not get there. The other option that we sometimes have to do from Longmont is to go to Boulder first, but we would have gotten to Boulder at 5:55 on the first bolt, and then to get out to Lafayette was not even conceivable. But the only other thing I'll bring up is that I don't think it said on there that she does. Are we to assume that she doesn't have a car So kind of one of those riddle things. So maybe she has a car. I wouldn't recommend walking down 287 at that hour of the day. It would take a long time, but that,
Yeah,
or even biking.
that's great. Let's see, Elaine said the bus schedule, wait, so the bus schedule wanted her to arrive the night before. That's fine, yeah. So this was based, it wasn't exactly, this wasn't exactly the trip that we were doing, but it was based on a real situation. And it was in Lafayette, farther away from the bus stop. So it wasn't something that was like really short distance walk from the bus stop. We ended up giving the person some GoGo grandparent credits because they also had technology barriers. But they did not have mobility limitations. So what we ended up doing is we gave them a little bit of GoGo grandparent credits until they could get a bike from Community Cycles. And then they ended up getting a bike from Community Cycles, and then they ended up having to negotiate a later start time for work because they weren't able to get there by 6 no matter what. So that's kind of what we focused on, and it wasn't the exact situation, but it was close enough. I don't know, Jessica or anybody else, if you have anything else to add to this situation, or if you want to respond to how we solved it.
I was just going to paste the Google grandparent link here on the chat in case anybody would like more information about Google grandparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, like the case that we dealt with was challenging because there was still the technology barrier, but there wasn't the mobility limitation, right? So, but we ended up helping the person, and it worked out for being able to get started and settled in the job. So we didn't follow up to see if they were able to carpool. We also recommended that they find somebody at work to carpool with. If any of you deal with difficult, challenging transportation situations like this, please send them to us. Natalie, you're upside down. I don't know how that happened, but that was pretty great.
I cannot get it to work. Somehow something got reset. I don't know what. So I'm gonna just leave it off.
Okay, that sounds good. Cami?
I was just gonna ask Bobby if she could remind us how long when you check out a car share, people do have it for?
You can have it from 15 minutes to a week. We don't have any really limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason I had in my brain, or we thought that it might only be a few hours at a time. So I liked your idea about someone taking and going potentially because of the time limit, but that's okay.
Yeah, because you can pick it up at 3 in the morning. Actually, in Boulder, there are number one users that are at 1 o'clock in the morning till 1:15. So
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder.
And the person like in Longmont was probably close enough to the 6th and Kaufman if they did have somebody to give them a ride to do that. They didn't have a driver's license. So I didn't even think about suggesting that they have a friend sign up for Colorado Car Share, but next time I will. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Bobby, did you have your little square lit up?
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next update. So Jessica has this update.
Yeah, thank you. So as some of you know, Mobility for All has an ambassador program. It's basically a group of volunteers that live in different parts of Boulder County and who help us promote our services and also teach the 5 different apps that we provide as workshops to the public. So we do Google Maps, the Transit app, Uber, Lyft, and the RTD My Ride app. Those are very helpful for people who want to find other ways to become multimodal. And right now we have 7 ambassadors. Actually, Lisa is one of them and she's on the call. And we're looking to expand our program. We are not specifically, but we would like to have more Boulder County Housing Authority residents and also volunteers who speak Spanish too and who are passionate about helping others use those different types of mobility apps. They don't have to be super tech savvy. They do need to be comfortable using a smartphone, but we are going to be training them. So the trainings will begin late June on June 28th. And we're going to do a training per app. So it's going to be 5 months of training, which we're going to do in person on Thursdays. We will be doing a push for a press release, and then also adding this new description update, so the description for the position very shortly. But in the meantime, if you can think of somebody who might be interested in becoming an ambassador, you can email me or call me or have them call me. We do provide a stipend for ambassadors in the form of Uber and Lyft and RTD credits, so that they can go to the places where they need to go. They can also go get a coffee with somebody who has questions about mobility. And yeah, we're excited to have a push and to increase the amount of people that we have as ambassadors in this program. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if Lisa wanted to say something. I'm sorry, Lisa, I don't want to put you in the spot. Yeah.
Looks like she wants to say something, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Let me see if I can help her unmute. I know it's tricky.
Unmute.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been an ambassador for a few years now. And it's a great way, because I used to tell people, look, yeah, I'm part of the True Pace program. I used to say, you take the year, there's no reason you can't go places and do things. And I think isolation is really dangerous. And just being able to have some tools so you can offer them to other people and encourage your friends to travel or go swimming, which is what I usually do. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa. We're definitely looking more people. And we want to have more Lisas in our team, people who are interested in promoting the different ways that you can get to places and who can lead with the example and also be patient to teach peers who may not be willing to or may not be used to using apps to go to different places. So thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's my update.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jessica. And just to kind of add on to what Jessica was saying, the ambassador model has been pretty successful at one-on-one help, right? Because a lot of people are intimidated in a large group setting to be able to like ask questions. So we've had a lot of success with the one-on-one model. Okay, so next we're going to do a Mentimeter, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Mentimeter presentation. So if you all have a smartphone, you can go ahead and do the QR code reader. If you need to be able to click on the link, then you can do so. I'll put the link in the chat so you can just open it up as another window on your computer if that's how you prefer to take the Mentimeter. What we're going to do is we're brainstorming. We're going to brainstorm members of the MAC. So some of you may know that with we're going to formally adopt the charter, and we're going to go through a semi-formal appointment process for the MAC. And in particular, this goes along with the fact that we do have some of the mobility funds from the sales tax, and we want to have this body be able to inform some of the decision making on how we're going to be prioritizing projects, because obviously there's always going to be more projects than what there is funding. So in an effort to be a little bit more formalized, we're going to be trying to find out which demographic areas we want to make sure that we have represented and which stakeholders. So it looks like there's 8 people here. Jessica, can you tell me how many people are on the call? I can't really see right now with sharing.
Yes, there's 22 participants.
Okay, so
in
I'll go ahead
total.
and leave it there until we get a little bit closer to 20 or so, because I think that
Yeah.
staff wouldn't necessarily be taking it. And you're more than welcome to take it if you want. There's nothing, if you are a staff member, you can take it. I was just saying, if you're busy doing other things, you don't have to take it. So it looks like we have 17 people, 18, okay. So we'll go, basically this Mentimeter, can you see the slide? Obviously you can because you're in here, but this Mentimeter, I'm just gonna go through different organization types. And I wanna see if there's like either organizations that you think that we should reach out to or specific people that we should reach out to represent that that area. So for example, transportation providers. So everybody can add somebody that they think, a transportation provider that they think we should have on the MAC in a formal capacity. So we have currently VIA, RTD, Z-Trip, Cultivate can attend sometimes. So if you can think of transportation providers that we should extend the invitation to. So it looks like we have 1. So each of the answers will pop up and then I'll show them after a while. So on your phone or on your, in your tab online, we have 4 answers so far. If you could nominate a transportation provider that you think that we should ensure is on the MAC, that would be helpful. 5 answers.
I didn't realize you could hide the answers.
Yeah, it's good sometimes that way. You don't have like power of suggestion. Not that there's like a million different transportation providers, but is anybody having any problems accessing Menti? Just wanted to check in.
Maybe people are just thinking.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show the answers, and I may open it up for discussion or comments, just so you know. And then also if there's something specific, I may ask for clarification. So it looks like we have Z-Trip, 8 Black, I have not heard of them. BBSD, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I
Okay.
should have been muted.
BBSD, Uber, school transportation departments, Accessoride, and the scheduler specifically. So also if there's an Uber representative, Colorado Car Share, RTD Via, RTD, CDOT, Mustang, Imagine or other passes, Intellaride, Flex from Boulder to Fort Collins, Community Cycles. These are great. Does anybody have, going through these, does anybody have anybody that they want to add to this? Okay.
I'm just curious about 8 Black.
Yeah,
Oh.
I put them, this is Frank, I put them down. They purchased Green Ride, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I see their vans around. I think they're still doing airport related trips, shuttles, but I know it's a private owner. They may be doing more than I'm aware of, so I just put them down.
That's great. And what about the TVI? I don't know what TVIs are.
Oh, sorry, Angel. It's Teachers for the Visually Impaired.
Teachers for the Visually Impaired? Is it like a volunteer driver group or what is it?
No, it's a job. It's like, and they don't drive, but I thought it would help if they were able to attend, because then they could know what's like available, and also they could give ideas and suggestions, because they help like students, and they also help like, I guess, other older people too, but they typically are in like high schools and stuff and like younger.
Okay.
And so they'll a lot of the times help with like transitioning to like adulthood. I don't know.
Yeah, great suggestion. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. Mhm.
The next group we have is older adult services. So is there anybody, and if you're on your phone, you can click go to the next slide. So let's go ahead and enter any of the older adult services that we think we should reach out to make sure that we're including in MAC efforts. So this would be, of course, like the Area Agency on Aging, we have them present with Lindsay, but senior centers, Ronnie, I think you're with the Boulder Senior Center. Any other ideas that you all have with aging services? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show answers. You can continue to contribute even after I show the answers. So it looks like we have the AAA senior centers, Cultivate, VCP, which is Veteran Community Project, Cultivate, True Pace Transportation, which is VIA's contract. VIA has the contract for that, I believe, right? Independent Living Centers, Cultivate, Assisted Living Centers. What's the Longmont Region? I don't think I know that organization.
Sorry, I was looking for my mute button. They are an assisted living place too, so I guess I was maybe like too specific, but they're one of them.
Oh, good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I put True Pace Transportation, I know I'm there to represent True Pace, but they also have a transportation department.
Oh.
And I think there could, and so they get faced with some questions about going different places. And I thought maybe it would be good to have one of them sit in.
Yeah. If nothing else, on a panel discussion, perhaps, would be great.
Yeah.
Niwot Community Connectors, Senior Planet, Senior Center, churches. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to this that they weren't able to contribute through Menti? Are there any thoughts that come to mind after you see this list? Okay.
I was also thinking churches could be helpful, so I second that one.
Yeah, a couple people put churches on here. I know that. Yeah, I know that Second Baptist Church was involved in our inclusive planning process because they definitely had people having transportation challenges getting to their services.
Oh yeah.
So the next one I have is disability services. I'll go ahead and leave this open for about a minute, and then I'll show the answers, and then we can talk about it for a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show the answers. So we have CPWDs on here a couple times. Imagine is on here a couple times. Accessoride, SSI, Hop Skip Drive, National Federation of the Blind. That's great. Anybody, does anything come to mind after we read these? If there's any group that we left off? I guess like DVR, since we have Jeff here on the call. I don't know if DVR, yeah, somebody just wrote. Yeah. That's great. Are there any, and then I know, Rebecca, you work with the PASAs quite a bit. Are there any forums that the PASAs like all meet at, or is there any way to like actively try to recruit them?
That's a good question. I've been trying to promote them. Let me find out. I mean, a lot of them are members of the Alliance, but I don't know if they actually meet as a group.
Okay.
But we certainly could send something out to the PASAs that work in Boulder County.
Okay, that's great.
I mean,
yeah.
I could weed them out through Imagine.
Do you want to describe what PASAs are, Rebecca?
Sure. It's a professional service agency that provides services within the Medicaid system for persons with disabilities such as developmental disability, intellectual and developmental disabilities, autism. And the PASA, so the Medicaid waiver pays for services for the individual, and it usually comes through the PASA is the one that provides the services. RFPs, referral for programs are sent out in order to obtain the PASA, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what does PASA actually stand for?
It's program approved service agency.
Okay.
So it has to go through the state for approval.
Okay, that sounds good.
And also I was going to say that Division of Voc Rehab does have a vision department, and they have an excellent training program. It's in the Metro Denver office, and it might be nice if we paired up with them as well.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And Sarah, did you want to, I saw your comment in here. Is there any other disability services or disability groups that?
Oh, I think you guys got all mine. I just said Easter Seals, I think is the only one in there, like Imagine, but in a different region. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if they count, but yeah. And then I put like some people that are under Imagine, like Gather and Grow and what is it called? The Traveling Gnomes. They also do that kind of thing. They're kind of more day programs though, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's good. The day programs would, I mean, obviously there's transportation needs there.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also the Roost. That's also a day program too.
The Roost.
Yeah.
I'll have to jot these down. Our next category is youth services. So I'll leave this open for about a minute and then we'll move on.
I see that Jeff has a question on chat.
Okay. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that, Jeff. Yeah, I can't hear you. Your microphone doesn't seem to be working. It looks like you're unmuted, but can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Oh, thanks. Yeah, YMCA. Yeah, Jeff, you can also, oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah, for putting that in the chat and help us keep it
Oh
keep it
yeah.
in mind. Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so we'll leave it open for a little bit longer. I'll start showing the answers. So we have churches again, we have rec centers and schools, YMCA, Wild Plum, which is a daycare in Longmont, Dr. Cog's school pool, Head Start, any organization that has an underutilized van, yes. That is another like component, right? Is we want to make sure that the transportation providers are communicating with each other so that maybe we could leverage different resources, right? Transitions, which I'm assuming is transitions programs for schools, like when people have an IEP, they like can go through a transitions program to get a job after high school. Let's see, Boulder Bike Families, Division of Vocational Rehab again, BVSD, and what is CSDB? Does anybody want to speak to that one?
Yeah, that's Colorado School for the Deaf and Blind.
Great, thank you.
I love how I know all the acronyms that like everybody's like, wait, what's that?
Yeah, I know. That's why you're like
so many.
Imagine again. Yeah, these are great. This is a good start. Let me see. I think we have a couple more categories, perhaps. Basic needs services, and then we'll do basic needs services, and then we'll pause because Jeff from DVR is here. Jeff, can you try to unmute yourself to see if it works before your presentation?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I had queued up the phone number in case I needed to mute on the computer side and dial in, but this is good.
Great,
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We'll leave this open for a little bit longer. We'll start sharing. So we have, I'm not sure if this was via VIS or if it was something else, Red Cross, libraries, Our Center, food banks, Sister Carmen, sample supports. I'm not sure what that is.
I'm also not really sure, but
yeah.
I think they help people with autism as well for like living support.
Oh, great.
Angel, sample supports is a PASA.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh, nice. That's good to know. I just knew they existed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and then the PASAs again. So I'll be probably reaching out to you, Rebecca, to try to recruit a PASA or two for the MAC coming up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, and oh, we have housing. Let me just see really quick. Veterans, equity. We'll have to come back to this either after the presentation or next time. So looks like we have quite a few more that I had put on there that I forgot about. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm having some real issues today with my Zoom. It's like popping all over the place here. Okay, thank you very much. So today we have a presentation from Jeff Sider. I'm not sure, is that how you pronounce your last name, Jeff?
It's Sitters. It's pronounced
Siders.
It's certainly not the worst that I've ever heard it. So we would roll with that if we needed to, but it is, okay. Yeah, it is Sitters. Thank you.
Okay, Sitters. So Jeff is with the Division of Vocational Rehab, and he works specifically with businesses and helping businesses do some job placements, I believe, with internships for DVR clients. But he is the expert here, so I'll turn it over to him to talk about what he does. But we thought that this would be a great opportunity for nonprofits and other programs around Boulder County to be connected with DVR to hopefully work on getting placement of more people with disabilities into our workforce, because we know that that's a valuable perspective that we're missing in a lot of areas. So I'll turn it over to you, Jeff. I think you should have the ability to share your screen if you need to.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. And so, first of all, yes, I absolutely will provide more information, Angel, about Lyft. The program seems to be pretty robust in the Denver metro area. Goodwill is the partner for Lyft, so they do some of the vetting and screening to make sure that the program is being administered properly. And it seems like Lyft has wanted to seed some of the bigger urban areas first before expanding out into some of the other surrounding areas. But I think Boulder County, Broomfield is a pretty significant chunk of territory. So hopefully, we could convince them to move that program, migrate it up north. There does seem to be some people, at Lyft kind of in corporate or maybe even through Goodwill Denver who could, might point us in the right direction. So happy to help coordinate or, connect dots with that. And then and then the second piece is, so I know Rebecca Seiden, of course, could certainly speak to much of what I could and prepare to talk about here today. But for everybody else not named Rebecca Seiden, there is probably a varying level of understanding and knowledge about DVR. So I came queued up today to talk about a couple of things. And that is, how we provide services to those who are job seekers in-house. How are we helping them discern goals, develop their skills, and then ultimately be ready to deploy out to the workforce? And then to speak about what my role and my team does specifically. And we don't do this in a vacuum. We try to do it with a lot of robust partnerships. Now, you folks can guide me, and I'll go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint. We can go through the job seeker side and then go into the business services side, or we could spend less time on the job seeker side and more time on what my team and I do and go more into some of the weeds beyond what the slides cover about the different kinds of employment models that we use at DVR for people to be successful. But I'll let you guys and your interest in what you want to cover kind of guide me on that. Oops, let me come back here to the meeting and let's screen share first. Okay, very good. There we go. Pull that up. So I believe everybody now can see the slide deck. And there we go. So this is a general overview of our program. And as we get going, if you folks feel free to come off mute, feel free to put it in chat. We already have a couple of chat comments. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so we will, I'll just kind of follow your lead on how much time to spend. And I realize, we have about a 30-minute window here and leave a couple minutes for question and answer as well. So we'll go ahead and get started, but I'll follow your lead in just how much time, we spend looking at specific sections of this content. So there we go. So this is just a quick legal disclaimer that the Department of Labor and Employment asks all of us to put into all of our presentations. And it simply says that I'm not here today giving any specific legal guidance or advice, not to any one individual with rights and privileges and protections under the Americans with Disabilities Act or any other civil rights legislation, nor are we talking about any particular business entity and the obligations that that entity may have under the ADA. Instead, this is an information sharing session where I'm providing the most accurate and correct information about our services at the state of Colorado. And of course, we know lots about ADA. I'm sure lots of you folks on here know about the ADA as well. And we can have more robust conversations if that ever needed to come up with regard to accessibility, but that won't be the point of what we're covering here today. And then a little bit about DVR. So at Voc Rehab, our job is really fundamentally simple, and that is to help every single one of the individuals we serve choose the most lucrative and appropriate career pathway of choice. We want everybody to aim high. We understand that the world of work is changing as we move into this next technological phase of our society. A lot of jobs are going to be going away. They already are. I'm seeing it day by day, week by week, month by month out there. The labor market is shifting. So we're going to need to take folks who might not even be thinking about upskilling or doing more beyond basic entry level work and move them into some more advanced environments. And that means we need to, think about training programs that are fully accessible, work with our education partners, under the Employment First legislation for disabilities to ensure that our career-connected training pathways are just as accessible as our workplaces and our K-12, that we can create these adaptive learning environments in work. And I say this, as I'm talking to Ball Aerospace and, Lockheed Martin and Amazon and others about, hey, what about custom employment? What about customizing this? What about tweaking this job just a little bit? It seems like a lot of our folks could do a lot of really meaningful work in there if we change things a little, but we want everybody to live as self-sufficiently and independently as possible. And we don't do this in a vacuum. So we need to have a lot of partnerships out there in society. And Rebecca, who worked, of course, Rebecca Seiden, as a counselor for many years, knows about the power of partnerships and about our ability to connect individuals to resources. And on the business services side, of course, we build the partnerships with businesses because we believe everybody who wants to work should be able to work, that our business communities are more vibrant and stronger and more sustainable if everybody can contribute their gifts, their unique talents, and their abilities out there. Nobody should be shut out, but for some, that means we need to search a little bit harder. We need to turn over a few more stones. We need to get a little more creative. But if there's a will, there's a way. Think of any job out there. And I'll tell you right now, there's a person with a disability who's either doing it or who could do it with the right reasonable accommodations. How many people are we serving a year? Well, it varies. We're serving probably at any given time an active caseload total of around 10 to 12,000 individuals, maybe a tiny below, tiny above. And we're aiming, for more than just a quarter of those individuals to close successfully, meaning achieve sustainable, long-lasting employment, positive employment outcomes, not just for 90 days, which we kind of, fade out of the picture once we have about 3 months of stability, but just, for on and on and on, way off into the future, and providing whatever supports that looks like. And, we're bringing back roughly, and this is from a couple of annual reports ago, about $40 million is being returned into our, into the state of Colorado through earned income tax with a budget of around $50 million at DVR, give or take again a little. I think we can flip that to where much more is being returned through earned income tax if we again are helping our individuals choose those pathways that are going to be more sustainable into the future with some of our advanced growth industries. Don't want to just get hung up on this slide though, because we do have a few other things to cover, but that's the backdrop here at DVR and how we as an agency, I think, are going to need to do a little bit of adapting as well so that we are fully connected to where those opportunities are going to lie into the future. What are we going to talk about here today? Well, a little bit about disability. This isn't, the fundamental treatise of this particular presentation, because I know you folks are subject matter experts in a lot of other areas. So we'll just say a couple of words there and then really get into the crux of our services. And at the end, I want you folks to have an absolutely full confidence that if you need to get a hold of DVR for services for somebody to recommend, to refer, whatever the case is, that you know how to find us and that you have just enough of an idea about what we do and how we can be an asset for those who are wanting to career seek or improve their vocational outlook, as well as for how we can be a benefit to employers. You don't need to know the whole package, but just enough so that you feel like you can help to connect the dots for those who you might be serving in your world, who might benefit from what we do. So how do we get connected to DVR? That's really going to be an important part of this. Okay. So let's move on to our next slide here and just talk a moment about disability. For the interest of time, I'm not going to throw the question out there, what do we all think about when the word disability comes up? But honestly, when I go in and talk to an employer for the first time, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I know that employer has a cross-sectional life experience of disability very unique to that individual. It could be, hey, I haven't thought of disability since I was in school, and my neighbor next door, had a significant disability, seemed to be in special education, and I never really saw much. And gosh, aren't all people with disabilities pretty limited? And I've had that conversation come up with managers, and I'm like, well, you met one person with one disability at one time in that person's life. That person may be doing amazing things today, or he may be doing whatever is appropriate for where he is at. But you met one person. We have individuals with PhDs and master's degrees. We have people with PhDs who use assistive speech devices. We have people with PhDs who are blind or low vision, or who have autism. I mean, it's just across the board. And the examples can go on, but that's where disability can be so many different things. I boil it down to 2 words though, folks, for my work: competitive advantage. The first homework assignment everybody gets that I'm working with these days is around, hey, think about your competitive advantage. How has the adversity you've gone through, the crucible you have faced, how is that going to make you a better worker for the occupational goal that you've chosen. Not one single person in 8 years at DVR, where I've been here, has, and in a few years before then at Mental Health Partners in Boulder, Broomfield County, has anybody been able to not come up with something. There's always some kind of an advantage in there. And of course, we do have to take the limitations into account, and that's where the great work of our counselors comes into play. So, however, the ADA gives us a nice framework for how to consider disability, because we have to have a formal definition out there so that we know, well, when is discrimination occurring? Who is actually being protected? And there's 3 subsets of individuals who are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the most seminal piece of legislation to ever be passed. There were other civil rights acts that were passed over the years, beginning in the early 1900s, all helped a little bit, but nothing opened up accessibility across the broader population and society like the ADA has, and it's still not perfect. There are still times when lack of accessibility is faced. That's why we as a community need to keep working together, coming together and talking about these wicked problems, exactly like you all are doing right now. But ADA says a disability is a condition that a person has that causes a substantial loss of function in one or more major life areas. And it's not going away probably anytime soon, but it doesn't have to be permanent. So a person with a broken limb, right, or fractured bones, can absolutely have a disability with limitations for a short period of time, therefore needing an accommodation. But that means when the person heals and returns to a higher level of function as previous, that person won't have a disability anymore and may not need that accommodation. But they might have a record of having such an impairment or set of limitations. But don't think of them that way. Think of what objectively can this person do in the moment. I've worked with people both in my first career as a physician and then even as a business owner. I had a gentleman when I was buying, restoring, and selling Model A, Model T cars. He had a seizure disorder. My chief mechanic at 65 years old, very well controlled seizure disorder, only 1 episode on the job. So we had to think about ADA and how that pertained to my small business. And then here, of course, at Voc Rehab, we think about this all the time. But people with a record of having limitations are also protected. But of course, they don't have the disability, so they don't need accommodations. We just need to prevent them from being discriminated against in employment settings. And then a person who does not have a disability, but who could be regarded as having a disability as well. I had in medical school, I had one of my professors had a craniofacial anomaly because she had fetal alcohol syndrome. From the moment she was birthed to that moment when she was standing in front of our class as a professor, she said, everybody looks at me and assumes I have lots and lots of limitations and have a disability. She said, I've never needed an accommodation for work or school. I was not in an IEP. I have, same intellect as everyone else. In fact, I'm a higher on the scale according to the tests I've taken. And I excelled in, sports. But everybody assumed based on that. Now, she might be a little atypical, given the physical presentation for not having any, real cognitive deficits, but you can't judge her that way. So she needed to be protected. And she probably has faced more bias than she shared with us. But that's what we're trying to think about disability as more of a social construct than a medical construct. It's part of the human condition. Folks, 1 in 4 individuals in the nationwide census, especially in the age of COVID, that's about a robust 25%, now are claiming to have a disability. That's a self-identification. In Colorado, the last census puts us around 1 in 5 individuals. And of course, the number's a little lower in our youth population, but still, that's not insignificant. It's the largest minority group out there in the world that anybody can enter at any given time. So it's important to know this because I work with employers all the time around accommodations and around, maintaining ADA compliance in interviews and other, related considerations. And we need to know what our baseline definitions are before we can really start working around, some of those important concepts and empowering the people we serve to really view the ADA as a tool of empowerment to help them succeed in the workplace. Disability can be a lot of different things, but if we start to narrow it down and put it into a few kind of useful buckets, it can be apparent or non-apparent. About 7 out of 10 now are individuals with non-apparent disabilities. That means that at any given moment, you may not come to the conclusion based on just appearance alone that the person might have any limitations, but change the work, the order of tasks in the job, add a promotion, add, additional compound stressors. And all of a sudden, that may not be the case. So we need more inclusive workplaces so that the individual can go to the supervisor and say, hey, you know what, with this added workload, yeah, my ADD is bothering me a little bit more. And oh, by the way, you didn't know I had ADD because I never had to disclose it before now, or lupus or diabetes or whatever the case might be. But they need to feel comfortable in doing that. Otherwise, people with disabilities are, especially those with hidden disabilities, are going to leave the business and they're going to have to backfill. And a lot of times people in high level positions are afraid to disclose. They leave, and that's very costly for businesses. So we work with businesses to mold their culture, to think about things differently, to put in human-centered design practices. If it's accessible for folks with disabilities, in your workplace cultural practices and also in your employment practices, guess what? It's going to be fully accessible for people without disabilities, and everybody's satisfaction is going to rise and their ability to be productive. It can be born with or developed over time. More individuals develop them over time, however, as the incidence of disability increases with age and as we all, tend to lose function over time. Excuse me, experienced temporarily, or again, it can be permanent. It can be right from birth. But it can come and go. It just depends on the nature of the disability. And there can be multiple disabilities at any given time. But again, there's a pathway to success vocationally out there for everybody, regardless of which of these factors here on this slide are at play. We just need to find the right environment, have the right plan. So these are different categories that I think it's useful for those who may not live in the disability world, day in, day out, moment by moment, including many of our employer friends, but for them to think about, okay, physical, then there's psychological or mental, and then developmental. And we mean by developmental, these are disabilities that start to manifest in the early stages of life, between the ages of maybe 2 to 4. And that's where we see autism, and we start to see other kind of spectrum related disorders, cerebral palsy and others. Multiple sclerosis, I don't know. I didn't make this slide. I'd probably repackage that into a different category, but nevertheless, there are, some about 3, maybe 4 discrete categories where we can kind of summarize all disabilities as fitting into one of those. And the important point to know about DVR and agencies like ours, we don't have all the subject matter expertise to help every single person with a disability to achieve success in the workplace, but we have the capability to reach out and form connections with and partnerships with other subject matter experts in other places, including those on this call right here today, to help us in that quest to help any given person at any given time to achieve career success and to overcome these barriers, to overcome these limitations, and to be in a position where the strengths and the capabilities can be maximized. That's what we're doing. And so I can give lots of examples for individuals with all of these disabilities and more, beyond this slide, where we've helped them to achieve success. But we don't want people to suffer in silence. And so if there's even a thought that we could be of help, we'd rather people come in and explore a little bit and then, hey, we tried it. Maybe we aren't the right program. Maybe an adjunct nonprofit or someone else out there could be of help. But at least we know information is really powerful. So our processes and our services. So on the job seeker side, there's a lot of value that we can offer by helping to create a roadmap to success. This is individually prepared. There is no one size fits all. A counselor will meet with a person with a disability or who might think he or she has a disability. Maybe there's no formal documentation. Just know that maybe struggled a little bit more with school or work than would have been optimal. And so then from that first appointment onward, we have 60 days to determine, hey, are you going to be eligible for our program? Are you going to benefit from our program if you enroll? And do you have a documented disability? If we don't have any documentation, we can help the individual acquire that documentation, and DVR can pay for that. Some, assessments can be very costly. others not so much. But regardless, we don't want barriers such as cost. And this comes up quite a bit when I form liaison partnerships with universities like University of Colorado or Colorado School of Mines. A lot of young adults know they have struggled and had to work a little bit harder in certain areas, but they didn't really know why. And then no one's ever formally diagnosed them before. It's not down on paper. But we've helped about probably 8 to 10 referrals that I've helped bring to DVR to our Longmont Boulder County office from CU Boulder over time, and about another 6 to 7 from the School of Mines, where we've had to go out and get that documentation, and then they've come into our program. But once we have determined eligibility, that's where we build a plan, an individualized plan for employment. And then we have 3 months, 90 days to explore all of the different facets, features, vocational assessment testing, explore the labor market, do informational interviews, meet with people like myself on the business outreach team to learn about what are employers in our area, in our geographic region, really asking for right now. Sure, choose whatever you want, but I can come in with all kinds of facts, figures, and graphs and say, if you choose this pathway, you've got a really narrow slice of the labor market. So boy, you better be the best person because there just aren't many jobs. Or, hey, your skills and abilities look like they could crosswalk over to this related occupation in an industry next door, and look at how many more opportunities and look at how much more growth is projected. That's what we're doing during that 90-day period, trying to choose that best roadmap career goal, and then all the services and the supports that are going to be needed for that job seeker to be successful going forward. And sometimes those are services and supports needed outside of our organization, so we need to contract out. Sometimes we need to sign organizations up to become vendors, or different training, career-connected training programs up to become vendors. But all roads lead to employment then. That's the occupational goal. At the end, we're an employment program, not just to send people to school, not to stabilize them in Maslow's hierarchy at lower levels of the pyramid. We actually are all about employment. So if a person is destined for employment, that's their overarching goal, then we can help them to overcome the different hurdles and obstacles and build that smooth pathway forward to get to ultimately employment. And then, yes, we at some point detach, but the federal government these days is saying, hey, wait a second, we want to make sure people are stable up to 2 years outside of. So yeah, maybe the state agency, jumps off after 90 days if the person says I'm doing well, but we have contract partners out there that will follow for a much longer period of time. And honestly, if they don't, and we don't work with those contract partners, then we're not going to meet some of our benchmark goals, regardless of how soon we want to close people out of our program. And they can rapidly reopen should something change on the job. Again, disabilities can wax and wane. The job can change. Life circumstances can change. Whatever it is, we don't have to go back to square one. We can rapidly reopen that case and do a retention service to help that person. I always stay in touch with businesses if I had any hand in that placement process. So in order to be eligible for our services, just a really quick summary here. Must have a documentable disability. We've got to get it on paper, at least in one place. But most of our time is spent looking through the windshield and not through the back window. We're not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on the problems, the limitations, the challenges. Instead, it's, hey, okay, we've got a couple trees in the main forest there that, pertain to limitations, but look at all your strengths and capabilities. That employer wants to know about what can you do, not what can you not do. So how are we going to come up with a message to get that employer to view you as that candidate of choice? And so our services need to be valid for the person. They need to be relevant. Not everybody with a disability needs our services. Many folks don't. That's why we don't have the entire state of Colorado's population of those with disabilities here at our doorstep. Many don't even know about our program though either. So we could probably have quite a few more if they just knew about us. And then, after the program's complete, they're going to be able to do their work. That this real career goal is realistically obtainable and sustainable. So these are all things that we're thinking about at the counselor level as they're working through the process with the job seeker. And then I'm providing input, and so is my team, to really help with that viability and sustainability pieces. Okay, is this career goal, this occupation, based on me personally seeing an action out there with our employer partners? Is that really going to be a good fit for that disability? And then the sustainability, what's the growth and development projected over time? Because we want you to get into something where you can keep advancing in your job. And then who are the populations that we can serve? Anybody with a disability. Oh, let's go back up one. Some folks have no employment history, especially our young adults from 15 years on and upward. We do a lot of pre-vocational work with them to help to discern that career pathway. We give them, opportunities to do internships and job shadowing and all kinds of stuff, job tours. And we've gone and visited some of the most, fun, I think just, really interesting sites like Pop Sockets in Boulder. And we've been to, all of the video game places. Man, it was hard to build relationships with those video game companies. I had to pull in connections of connections to get a foot in the door in those places, but we've toured them all at this point in time from Denver and Boulder. But what really helps those young adults with those tours is they realize, wait a second, I don't even want to do this. That's a grueling, tough, laborious road to hoe. And man, I better be that top 1%, or I'm never going to be sitting in here in this place, writing video games for a living. Let me think about IT or software development or all these other things that have way more job opportunities. So the value of the tours is really to open their eyes about whether this is really the right direction or there are other places to go. Individuals who have been previously employed, maybe the disability onset during their adult life, and now they can't do the job anymore, or maybe they can't advance in the job. So let's reevaluate. Do we need to add some additional skills? Do we need to bring accommodations in the ADA to bear? Are they facing discrimination? I sometimes get calls out of the blue from either the worker or the employer, and they're at wit's end. And if they're at wit's end and it's soured and people, and again, one side's demanding the other do this and the other side's pushing back, I have yet to have one successful outcome once we get to that point. The ADA is meant to be empowering. It's meant to be a negotiation process for accommodations, but there are times when the pool sours to the point that it's best just to do an exit and let's start over again back, with an evaluation, figure out what's the best setting we should be in, and let's get our accommodations lined up this time and propose it early instead of waiting until the job has become destabilized with individuals. So we try to meet wherever the person is along the spectrum of work and employment. We try to meet individuals where they're at. Let's check chat here real quick. Oh, some folks have to leave. And I also have just a couple more minutes here too. So watching time, because you guys may have some wrap up things to take care of here today. So we won't run you right up to 3:45. Again, it's all about employment in terms of our outcomes, but it can be full-time, part-time, seasonal, yes, but boy, it better be leading into a permanent possibility, or maybe it's seasonal where they can come back from year to year. We have some folks, I think, who can do that. I can't speak to those examples as much. I'm sure Rebecca Seiden could probably think of a case or two, but really it's about getting into a competitive, integrated, permanent setting. It can be self-employment, got self-employed entrepreneurial tracks, and it can be supported where we've got our supports in place for quite a period going forward. Even after Voc Rehab is detached from the individual, we have other nonprofit agencies such as Imagine or Mental Health Partners or others out there that are providing follow-along support. And then we're not doing some minimum wage work anymore for anybody. It's got to be minimum wage or not less than what a person without a disability is being paid. So sometimes we have to have those conversations with employers that maybe have done some minimum wage before. Goods and services that we can pay for. Yes, absolutely. Lots of things that we can pay for. There is a financial needs analysis, though, that will come into play. Nobody will ever pay anything to meet with our counselors, to meet with anybody on my team, to just connect with DVR. But if goods and services come into play, the FNA does need to be taken into account. And then depending on what the person's, assets look like or income or whatever else, I'm not an expert on that element, then sometimes there would be a contribution. But we've helped individuals go all the way through college, four-year university, graduate school. These days, but I'm going to tell you straight across, 4-year degrees and masters and all that, that's great if you really need to go that direction. But there's so many career connected certificate programs, even at the high school level. They're earning credentials before they even graduate. And same in special ed. We're making sure that these programs are available now for our special education folks at both Boulder Valley and St. Rain Valley. I'm part of collaboratives that are working in those directions. You don't really need to go off to college. We've got registered apprenticeships, over 600 statewide now, where especially as a graduating high school senior, you can jump right in there. Let the employer pay for your 4-year degree down the road. Get a certificate to start with. So many great opportunities, but again, If someone's not helping folks work through all of this and the possibilities, it's hard to know. So that's what our team does, is try to bring that information back. Assistive technology, we can help to reduce barriers for psychological restoration, reduce barriers for physical health, reduce logistical barriers around transportation, childcare, personal assistance, and there probably are some borders or areas where we can support up to a point. Don't know exactly what those look like, but we try to be as comprehensive as possible. And then, of course, tools, books, supplies, and things like that, obviously, as well, can be really helpful and can be very expensive at times. And then what does my team do? Well, we've got a minute or so, a couple minutes left. Let me just give you the really important takeaways. We go out there and educate, and then educate some more. If that education is not in place and we're not dispelling misconceptions and some of the stereotypes, our brains bring in 2 gigabytes of information a second. That means the majority of things you're exposed to in your life, you're not even consciously aware it's getting put into your data banks in your brain. And your brain, which is a massive supercomputer, is pulling information at any given time to give you relevance when you're in any given situation. So if all you've ever really encountered are these stereotypes around disability, you've never thought about the subject at a conscious level, you've never done any active research or had even an introductory presentation like this one, all you've got to really work off is stereotypes. And so many recruiters out there, hiring managers, that's all they got. They're like, oh my aunt had schizophrenia. She was in a mental hospital for most of her adult life. Oh, disability, that's kind of like my aunt probably, or maybe it's enough like my aunt that I maybe don't want to push this forward. They're not even thinking all that. They're just getting a reaction, a gut reaction, and a little feeling or emotion that says, halt, stop. This could be, this could be liability. And we're educating to help them see past that, to overcome that implicit bias and become more consciously inclusive. It is a change in our mindset. But once you do that, I think it opens up the opportunity to connect with the greater world at hand in so many better ways. And that's where our trainings are evolving from. Less just get in front and give them the bullet points and say, here's the best practices. Others are doing it, you should try them too. To how can you really adopt these? Realistically speaking, what can you do on day 1? Where should you be at day 30? Where should you be at the end of your first year in terms of this change management process? Get in there and do a 2-day seminar. Really get in working with their thought leaders to make this really come to life. That's the education we're doing. And then, of course, promoting our job seekers. But in order for them to be credibly received, we've got to reduce those perceptual barriers. There's no way around it, whether it is the Goodwill store, whether it's the businesses on the Pearl Street Mall, or whether it is Google or Zayo Group or the biggest IT companies I talk to. We've got to reduce those perceptual barriers before we're going to have long-term sustained success. And that's what we're after, is long-term sustainable partnerships over time, where eventually those businesses can get in, meet with our counselors, and inspire our job seekers and our counselors to use informed choice to choose those career goals that lead to the most lucrative outcomes over time. And then, so what are we doing? Recruitment, retention, education, and long-term partnership. Yes, we can get in there and help folks with accommodations and ADA. Sometimes you just got to jump off the train and get on a different train. If an injury or something has occurred on the job, we've done that with CU Boulder several times. Obviously, the recruitment piece is important if we have the right skills. Sometimes we're not competitive, but we are qualified. But being in Boulder, being qualified for lucrative jobs in Boulders itself, in Boulder County, that's a lot different than being competitive against a really deep talent pool out there in some things, in some occupations. So we've got to do informational interviews with employers to learn about what is those most competitive candidates have that sometimes our pool doesn't have, and how can we bridge those gaps. So getting connected with us, we are in a program of choice. No one's forced to come to us. So everybody does need to outreach or have an advocate outreach to us. Our agencies usually have liaison counselors, and they have referral forms, and we form formal partnerships. But for the individual person, really calling this phone number, 303-774-4920, is really the way to get connected to our Longmont office. And I probably have spoken about 2 minutes over where I plan to stop. So I'm going to just stop right there. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, tomatoes to throw at me? What do you guys think?
We have a couple of questions that came in.
Okay.
So one in particular is, Is age and mental capacity loss due to age a disability?
It absolutely can, especially if we can show that, neuropsychiatric evaluations can show it. And just because we're experiencing limitations with the WISE workforce doesn't mean that there aren't things that we can do out there. There is even neurocognitive and I looked at this at Mental Health Partners before we left, and they didn't adopt the technology, but I knew as of 2014 into 2015, University of Pittsburgh had a really neat package of software out there to specifically deal with older individuals in the workforce who, whether they have severe mental illness or not, could do some neurocognitive remediation to help them vocationally. So I don't know who out here could provide it, if the state would invest, but there are tools out there to help individuals specifically with some of those limitations.
Great, thank you. And another question that came in is, if somebody wants to do like a job placement with DVR, so they're an employer, what would be the best course of action? Because we know that like whenever people are applying for jobs, it's not necessarily apparent if they have a disability or not, right? And like in general, it's just a really murky process. But if somebody really feels like it's going to be a value to their organization, and like what are those steps they can take to be able to hire somebody with a disability?
Absolutely. Well, given that that's the world that I live in and my team of 8 other individuals live in and breathe in every single day, we would love to go and speak to the business. And really, it's more listening to the business than it is speaking. I'll ask a few guided questions to help, get the individual talking about what he or she is interested in doing and what are their primary needs, those needs of most concern. And then we'll talk realistically about what our talent pool can offer. Do we have the skill sets today that could help that business? And could we begin developing skills so that we can fill some of those positions tomorrow as well? So that's that way it would work in getting in touch. So this is my email address. I'd love for my contact information to be shared with folks. That's a great way to begin, but contacting our general DVR office at the 303-774-4920. That's a portal that some businesses use as well to just reach out and say, hey, I don't know where to begin, but I have some interest. Either way, there's no wrong door.
Great, thank you. And one last question we have is, does DVR help people receive an autism diagnosis?
To help them receive, yes. So DVR certainly has a network of providers. I know depending on where you are in the state of Colorado, however, that there are some places where it's kind of like it's just a blackout zone where there just aren't providers available, or the waiting lists are really long, like the young adult's going to graduate from school before they get in to do that. Unfortunately, and I used to sit on the board of the Autism Society of Colorado for a few years, so I know what these logistical problems look like. Here in Boulder, Denver, though, we've got a really nice network of individuals that we can rely on to help with that diagnosis. And that one is never too old to gain some additional insight. Had a family friend who received a diagnosis at 75 years old. And he's like, he's still employed. He has his own business. But he's like, boy, that sure makes it easier for me to understand how I, through my career, was a taxi driver in London and a stockbroker in Manhattan. How could I be both? Well, he could get any job out there, but keeping the job was the hard part.
Yeah. Rebecca does want to mention that the wait lists are very long right now. And I'm assuming, Rebecca, that that's for the autism diagnosis. Is that right? Or is that for DVR?
The wait lists are probably not very long for DVR to become eligible, but for some providers out there, yes, that's where the wait list can become a bit longer. And if that's our primary diagnosis we're going after, that's a good question, right? Because how long do we want to keep somebody just hanging on the helo pad when maybe we could we get a different kind of evaluation to show something before we get the autism? Boy, good questions.
Yeah.
I better stop before I talk about something that I'm not fully informed about.
Okay, that sounds good. So Rebecca did say that it's for any assessments right now. It's a really
Okay.
long list. But I just want to thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us today. And we will include your contact information in the follow-up email. And our follow-up email will go out to approximately like 40 different organizations, nonprofits, government programs that may be interested in reaching out to you. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Angel. And feel free, I did see, I think this was a recorded meeting. So if this particular recording could be helpful for anyone to have in residence about 101 or the slide deck, we want more people to know versus less. And then, around the work that you all are doing, if there's any way, being an ambassador out there in the public that I could be of help, I'll eventually get my ADA certification. May not come in May because I have a family member that I'm kind of caretaking for right now, but at some point I will. So I think as that goes along, the work that you all are doing, especially around Title II of the ADA, would Title II and III would be really intriguing for me. But for now, I'll sign off because I could talk to you all day long. But you all
Well,
want to finish your
wonderful.
meeting and move on too. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's a real privilege to be here today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I know we're going to wrap up here. I know we've lost a lot of people, but just wanted to say that we have a panel discussion next month, and that May, is that the one that we're going to do in person, Jessica? I'll have to, yes, I believe it is. So May we're going to do in person. Sorry, I didn't clarify that before. So I will go ahead and send out a hold for the in-person, and it might be a little bit longer so that we can do, so I think we're going to be actually like getting ready. It's not a panel discussion. We're going to be getting ready for the charter. So thank you everybody for attending today. Really appreciate it and hope everybody has a good day.
Thank you all.